My name's Frank Costanzo from Accident Cause and Analysis. We're going to have this 1 hour presentation in regards to tractor-trailer accident reconstruction. We're going to talk about total stopping distances. We're going to talk about the rules and regulations, federal and state, in regards to tractor-trailer operation. We're going to talk about terminology you may not hear is kind of specific to tractor-trailer investigations. We'll talk about mechanical inspections of tractor-trailers and complete in 1 hour, hopefully educate you so you're able to understand this field better in your work. We're going to go over some important factors. Attorneys that are involved in tractor-trailer reconstructions and cases realize that it's kind of a different field than your average automobile accident. So we're going to talk about tractor-trailer collisions, going to give you some important terms you may hear from the police or you may hear during depositions, give you an idea of how speed calculations and how we download to get speeds, and take some time. We're going to go over some federal and state rules. When you talk to, before I play, when you talk to a tractor-trailer driver, the first thing a tractor-trailer driver tells you when you ask about, tell him where's the worst spot I should be in regards to you're operating a tractor-trailer. And they all say the same thing. You shouldn't be to the side of me because I can't see, you may be in my blind spot, or don't be behind me too close or you'll be in my blind spot. But my experience is that's not true. The worst spot we can be is in front of a tractor-trailer. This is a real-life video that was taken in Germany. We'll play the whole thing through. In tractor-trailer collisions, the one thing we realize is you don't have to be the first vehicle in line and struck. You can be the second, you can be the third or fourth and be severely hurt or killed in an accident. And the reason of this is of interest, we're going to talk about stopping distances. Wanted to play, what affects the stopping distance of a tractor-trailer? And when you ask this question, people correctly say a couple of the following things. Well, it's the weight of the tractor-trailer. Really affects how the thing stops. This is a scenario that happened on the New Jersey Turnpike. It was a fatality, but a fully loaded tractor-trailer is traveling 55 miles an hour on a dark, unlit roadway. There's no lighting available on the roadway, and he's going to come to a disabled car that's not lit. In your mind, when I tell you that scenario, I would like you to come up with a total distance you think will take that tractor-trailer to come to a stop. When we talk about stopping distances, it's broken into two fields. It's broken into a field called perception reaction distance, and it's also broken into the field what the total braking distance would be of the tractor-trailer. The perception reaction distance is basically the time associated with which your mind is able to perceive and react. There's a certain time associated with that. Daytime's 1.6 seconds, nighttime's about 2.5. And then we'll talk about the total braking distance. Why is there such a difference? Well, we call it detection and recognition. There's a term in braking called brake lag, and that takes about a half a second at an average. And what the brake lag is, tractor-trailer brakes are air brakes. They're not mechanical brakes like automobile brakes. And what happens is that by the time a driver presses on his brake pedal, there's a time associated with what the pressure actually activating the brake pad. That's called brake lag. So in the scenario I just gave you when we were talking about it, if he's going 55 miles an hour, he's going 80.63 feet per second. Times that by 3 seconds is the perception reaction time at night plus the brake lag. The perception reaction distance he's going to travel is 241 feet. And then I found, being in court many times, people have a hard understanding of distances, so I like to use football fields, and everybody knows a football field's 300 feet. So when we're dealing with this situation, 241 feet is not quite a whole football field, but it's about out the 15-yard line. The braking distance is another situation with tractor-trailers. The photo I have up there is an interesting photo. There's a question that experts seem to misunderstand a lot too. And one of the forwarded questions before the talk was the talk about stopping distance of tractor trailers. You think a tractor trailer combination would stop quicker loaded or unloaded? And when you ask that question in a CLE, when there's people and you have people raising their hands, most of the people say unloaded. But the dynamics of the tractor-trailer collision would tell you that it stops better loaded. And the easy explanation to that is there's a lot of smart people that design tractor-trailers. There's a lot of people, their safety's at risk to have safe tractor-trailers on the roadway. If the engineers that are designing the tractor-trailers would design the tractor-trailers to stop quicker unloaded, then when they're loaded, we have a serious safety issue on the roadways. And then you see these little skid marks with interruptions and skid mark and interruptions. Some people look at that when I do these CLEs and say, well, that's an anti-lock skid brake. No, they're very similar, but what that is a jump skid. And a jump skid happens when a tractor is under heavy braking and a trailer is empty. And what actually happens is the trailer starts to bounce up and down the roadway. Well, it's bouncing and it's off the ground, it's not braking. When it comes back, it brakes, and we see these little jump skid marks. That's one of the effects when a tractor-trailer is unloaded that affects the braking distances. It takes a tractor-trailer traveling 55 miles an hour on a dark, unlit roadway, 510 feet to come to a stop. And we just said 300 feet's a football field, so it's well over a football field and a half. I use a term called no escape. Well, the question would be asked is, does this tractor-trailer operator have the ability to avoid this disabled vehicle in the roadway? The answer would be no. Front headlight visibility in general is about 120 feet. If you looked at the perception reaction distance is 200 and some feet, the person driving that tractor-trailer, once the headlights illuminate that stopped vehicle in the roadway, he's not going to be able to complete his perception reaction phase. He's going to be in a no escape. When a tractor is not pulling a trailer, there's a term called bobtailing. And bobtailing is usually taking place when it's a sole proprietor. A person who lives in Harrisburg, which is halfway between Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, owns his own tractor trailer. When he gets a call, we want you to come down to Philadelphia, pick up our trailer, and bring it up to Pittsburgh. Well, while the person who owns their own tractor is going from Harrisburg to Philadelphia, he's bobtailing. Under a heavy brake situation, when an individual is bobtailing, the tractor is going to pitch up, since it's a high center of gravity, and actually pull the two back axles off the ground. In best of scenarios, a tractor-trailer can develop 80% braking efficiency, and that's with everything working. This unit probably weighs about 20 to 25,000 pounds. When this unit is under a heavy brake situation, it's going to develop 10% braking capability. So when I did that calculation of 510 feet for the tractor-trailer before, this unit is going to take probably around 700 feet to come to a stop. When you see an object 2 or 3 football fields away, tractor-trailer operators don't perceive that as a hazard. So that's why these things, I tell everybody, stay away from these units. They're very dangerous on the roadway. In general, companies like UPS or the big trucking companies try through communications and people whose jobs are to always have a trailer attached to a tractor. And that's the safest scenario we can get.
Does a tractor trailer stop quicker loaded or unloaded?
It definitely stops better loaded with all its braking mechanisms working.
What is the Stevens rule regarding tractor trailer operations?
Stevens rule is the rule that truck drivers are supposed to follow in regards to travel distances. What the Stevens rule says is 2 tractor trailers that are following each other, there should be a 5-second separation between the front tractor trailer and the second tractor trailer in line. The Stevens rule has to do with the time associated with the tractor trailer to stop, and they think 5 seconds is enough for an individual to perceive, react, do a steering movement, maneuver, or brake. If I'm following a tractor trailer in front of me and I have a 5-second separation between me and the tractor trailer, and a person passes me on the left side, the first thing that person's going to do, if they're uncomfortable with the passing of 2 tractor trailers, is they're going to pass me on the left, and then they're going to pull right in between me and the tractor trailer in front of me. Well, under the Stevens rule, after that happens, I have to back up another 5 seconds. In an accident reconstruction sense, we want them to have that separation so they can stop. But in a practicality driving situation, they don't think it's very practical, so that's why we see the multi-vehicle tractor-trailer collisions, because they're just following too close.
Is there a law requiring liability insurance for tractor trailers?
Yes, the federal government, I believe maybe 3 or 4 years ago, mandated that they're supposed to carry $1 million of liability coverage. That's why we get into a situation where you start seeing tractor trailers inspected illegally. We call them lick and stick, where they go into a body shop and they don't inspect it and they sell them the inspection sticker, because in general, for them to be properly inspected, they have to have active insurance. If they can't afford the $1 million insurance coverage, then they reach out for other means to have the tractor trailer on the road and making the money.
What's the effect of a blown tire on the braking control of a semi?
If you have a blown tire on a steer axle, which is your first axle, you're in a lot of trouble, because you're going to lose control of that tractor in most scenarios. If you have a blown tire on your second and third, where there's dual tires on each axle and on each side, you can have a blown tire. If it doesn't cause any other contributory damage, you can have a blown tire and safely maintain control of the tractor trailer. In fact, the federal rules are, believe it or not, that you're actually allowed to drive with one tire missing for a short period of time. The reason why the federal rule is that way is if you have a blown tire, they don't want you just to kind of be stuck on the roadway. They want you to be able to get to a safe location, take the carcass off the axle, and drive to a safe location and have it fixed. We deal with these scenarios all the time. Car coming down, collision in an intersection, rolls over, catastrophic damage, and we'll hear from an attorney, can you calculate a speed for the truck? My answer is, by normal means, if that was 2 cars, we probably would be able to. But since there's such a weight difference, we can't. And this is where we come into conducting, I call them D-deck downloads. Newer tractor-trailer units, even heavy vehicles, depending what kind of engine they have in, we're actually able to go in, similar to what we do with cars now, go in and download their engine control modules. And some engine control modules actually have 60 seconds prior to the impact, some have 25. So we're able to actually download the data from the tractor trailer to get impact speeds. The one thing I would hesitate to tell you is it's information that's not, it's not going to be there forever. If the tractor trailer, if we have a tractor trailer scenario and say someone runs into the back of a trailer and is killed, the police are going to probably release the tractor. They'll keep the trailer because it's evidence. They'll release the tractor. Once the tractor's put back in service, that data available to us, once it's put back and operating, is going to be gone. And I call it sensitive data, where you have to get to it quickly. If someone calls me and says, Frank, I had this accident, it was fixed and put back in service, my answer is going to be, there's no way of really getting the data. But in most cases nowadays, if we can get to the data quickly and it's the right type of engine and right type of tractor, we definitely can get information if everything's preserved right. This one's interesting. We'll deal with load shifts right now. Here's a left-hand curve. Here comes a tractor coming out. You can see it lost of control and it rolls over. In general, tractor trailers shouldn't roll over. I mean, when we have a scenario where there's a rollover, the 3 things we're basically looking at. The first thing is always speed. And you can see in this case, it appears to be just a speed, but the critical speed of this curve is pretty high, and he loses control. Second is load shift. Load shift increases as the speed increases. So when you're going around a curve and you have a load that's not properly strapped down, not properly restrained inside, as the speed increases, it makes the load shift worse. This tractor trailer is going down the road at a really excessive rate of speed. He was speeding down the roadway. And when I heard this, I said, well, why does he think that? Well, he thinks that because it rolled over. But that's not necessarily the be-all of end-all of this one. It could have been a load shift. It could have been, as one person said, a mechanical problem, a blowout you can't see in the video. But people automatically think that something's wrong with the tractor trailer. We're going to talk about mechanical inspections, MCSAP. What's nice in Pennsylvania, and it's not been adopted in the federal rules and regulations, but all fatals that occur in Pennsylvania now require the investigating police department to completely inspect the tractor trailer. It's called a MCSAP inspection. And they do a level 3, which is a complete inspection. So they're going to check the brakes, they'll check the tire pressures, they'll check the driving logs, they'll check the engine control download, they'll check everything they're able to do. The reason why that's important is the best scenario I can give you is the next one. This was a fatality in this little town of Lancaster in Pennsylvania. What happened in this case was this was a fire truck that was bought from California. They bought it, it was shipped here. They had it inspected. 2 days after they had it inspected, this accident happened. And when I saw this accident, and the eyewitnesses said there was 2 fire trucks running to the same barn fire. And the eyewitnesses said that the driver of this fire truck was going way too fast around this curve. And you can see these marks. He actually put it in a spin and yaw and flipped it. And when I when I got called with this, I asked the police about doing the mechanical inspection, and the response was, he was just going too fast, we have an eyewitness. Well, when I pressed to do the mechanical inspection, I brought my forensic mechanic out with me, and people that are experienced in tractor trailers and people who aren't, I'll explain. This thing's called the leaf spring. And when we inspected the fire truck, my mechanic saw on the right upper side, saw the broken leaf spring. So the question, was the stability. And we actually can tie the broken leaf spring into the stability of the fire truck. Well, the question was also brought up was, well, it's rusted. How do we know it didn't break before the accident? Well, 2 days prior to this, it was inspected. And my forensic mechanic, I kind of made a statement to him saying, well, maybe they just missed it. As he handed me the inspection sheet, that's one of the items they have to check off as far as being inspected before they put the state tags on it. So it was just missed. It was missed by the inspection facility, and it had a contributory cause of this accident. This is why things need to be looked at MCSAP-wise. As far as MCSAP, this was a photo of an accident. People familiar with Pennsylvania, there's a Schuylkill Expressway. This was an accident I did. Believe it or not, that unit behind the tractor trailer was a tractor trailer. And sometimes these MCSAP inspections can't be done due to the extensive damage that we see on the tractor trailers. The reason why we had to really go and do this inspection was when the mechanical inspection was done of the tractor and the trailer, it found that 80% of all the brakes were non-functionable. And I told you, it really had to do with the person who was driving it. He made the statement, when I pressed on the brake pedal, it collapsed to the floor. When we heard that, I knew it was brakes. And the question was, how could something so dangerous be on the roadway? And the answer was, we have to start looking at the inspection facility. We have to start questioning the driver. And you really have to have a very knowledgeable mechanic to be able to do these types of inspections when there's some serious damage involved. Sometimes, doesn't matter what kind of expert you are, you can't do a MCSAP. And if I told you that photo is the cab of a trash truck, I'm sure no one would guess that. Unfortunately, this was a cataclysmic accident that just tore this trash truck apart when it hit a center median barrier. I don't care how talented you are, sometimes we can't do a MCSAP inspection. And as much as we try, and when you start trying to push the envelope for MCSAP inspections, that's why people start looking at you like, I don't believe anything can be done on this truck. So sometimes we have to actually stand up and say, no, nothing can be done. Federal and state rules. In almost every state I deal with, federal trucking rules are also adopted by the state. And the reason why that is done is the state wants to be able to have these federal rules enforceable and be able to fine people. And whether it's highway design or trucking, The states don't want to be in a situation where someone claims that they're not in compliance with the federal rules. So whenever you're looking at the Federal Highway Administration, all the rules associated with trucking, you will be able to find in your state a corresponding law, loading and unloading procedures. I call it the word for that is a non-delegatable duty. And what a non-delegatable duty is, that the CDL, the commercial driver's license that an individual has, dictates whoever is the driver of that unit is required and responsible for all the duties associated with what that person is supposed to do. So if for instance, if he's driving with the back of his trailer open, and I give this scenario, when a police officer pulls over, say he sees the back of a trailer open, and he pulls over and there's a driver and there's a passenger in the tractor. He walks up and they just switched over, they took a quick coffee break and they switched over. He's going to give that ticket to the driver, and then the driver's response is going to be, hey, I told him to check it. Well, unfortunately, the way they do it is, it's a he said, she said. We're going to eliminate that and give total responsibility to the driver of that tractor. Pre-trip inspections. CDL is required to do a pre-trip. They're supposed to walk around, make visual observations in regards to the tires. They're not really required to check brakes, because to check air brakes takes 2 people. But they're really supposed to walk around and make sure that the tractor and the trailer are in driving condition. If they deem that the tractor and trailer are not in driving conditions, under the CDL, they are responsible for not taking that unit out. And when they're required not to take the unit out, it means that they're required not to take the unit out. It's on their duty. They're required to take driving logs. The duty of the driver and the carrier, that is as far as loading. Let me go over one scenario with you, and it seems to pop up a lot. Inspections of if a trailer goes into a facility and the trailer is loaded and sealed, the CDL says that the driver is supposed to be able to look at his load and make sure the load is secured and strapped down. But the caveat to that is, if it's locked and sealed and it's a closed box container, he's not required to be able to open that and break the seal to inspect it. He is required to have the keys to it in case he's stopped by the police. The reason why that is basically one reason: it's theft. That people are transporting tractor trailers, they don't want to give their drivers the ability just to clearly just open it and take whatever they want out of the back. So that duty, now if it was a duty, for instance, someone hauling an open trailer that had lumber and it was strapped, the driver of that unit has to make sure that those straps are in proper weight ratio and in proper condition to be able to secure the load.
Melanie asks, what laws hold broker-dealers liable for negligence of an owner-operator?
I don't know the law, but I can tell you what I know from experience and an accident reconstruction phase. The owner-operator, whoever loads the unit, say it's owned by an individual that's going to load the unit, that individual is required to load and secure the unit when it's at a dock. Once it's locked and sealed and taken away, they kind of alleviate their duty because they have already done it. Now, if it finds out that it wasn't secured properly, it goes back to the person who loaded it. But as far as when that unit is on the roadway, the duty kind of is transferred to the driver, that the driver is now kind of responsible for the safe transportation of that unit.
Mark asks, do the total stopping distances discussed earlier apply to the air brakes of a bus?
Whenever it's an air brake situation, it's going to be an 80% braking situation. If you really want to be able, and people say, well, how do you know for certain it's 80%? Did you test it? And my answer is, in your scenario, who's going to take a bus on a roadway and skid a bus at 55 miles an hour? So we have to deal with kind of general numbers, general terms, because there's always a safety issue. Same with a motorcycle. How do you know that a motorcycle can stop in a certain distance? You didn't test it. Well, I can't find anybody to skid a motorcycle at 70 miles an hour safely. So we need to deal with averages and our experience in that sense.
Can you get the speed data from the satellite tracking data if the black box is not available?
The satellite data in a tractor will give you certain reference points over a certain period of time. Like it will tell you that it's at house 12, and from house 12 to house 13, it took 2 seconds. Well, we can do a speed calculation to figure out how quickly it would take that individual to go that distance. It's not as accurate as the speed download.
The loading regulations require load straps/load locks.
Oh, absolutely. The loading regulations, you'll find it's pretty self-explanatory. You really need to know the load of the pallet. You need to know the weight of the load. You look in the federal and the state regulations, it's a pretty simple calculation. It will tell you each strap has a load rating. You take what the load is you're strapping down. It will tell you how many straps you need for it. When it's a confined trailer, you're only required, most of the time, you're only required to strap it down for lateral movement. In a confined trailer, they can actually tic-tac the placement of the pallets and kind of lock them in. They're not required to have straps to prevent lateral, forward or backward movement in that type of trailer.
Are drivers required to check the tire pressure gauges?
When they do their walk-around, they're not required to check the pressure of a tire.
Are drivers required to know the weight of their load?
Yes, they're required to know the weight of their load. Each trailer has a gross vehicle weight rating, which means that their trailer has, in general, if it's a 53-foot trailer, their gross vehicle weighting is probably going to be like around 70,000 pounds. Well, if someone loads something in excess of that, loads 90,000 pounds, he needs to know, it's his duty, the driver's duty, to know that that's in violation of what his gross vehicle weight rating is. They submit papers to him in regards to the load, and it's very easy just to look at what the weight load, his weight rating is in regards to his trailer.
Could you give an example? Earlier you talked about non-delegable duties on a tractor trailer. Could you give some examples?
The non-delegable duty is, for instance, a guy pulls up to a loading facility. He gets his trailer loaded, and he's waiting, it gets loaded, and he decides, they give him the thumbs up, go ahead and leave, and he leaves. And say the back is open to the trailer, and he's down the road some 30 miles, and he gets pulled over, and they said, well, you're in violation, you didn't secure it, it's under securing load, you left your trailer door open, and he says, well, they were supposed to close it. People at the loading dock close it for me. Well, non-delegatable says that state police are going to look at that and go, that's a non-delegatable duty. They may close it, but you have to make sure it is closed.
If there's no satellite data or no black box data, how would you go about calculating the speed?
Yeah, that's like the $100,000 question. How do you calculate a speed when you can't calculate a speed? If you have a car, if you have, say, a 1970 Freightliner that collides with a car in an intersection, and they collide and the guy in the car is killed, be honest with you, the practicality of calculating speed in that scenario is very slim, if not impossible. Because all the methods we have available us to reconstruct traffic speeds are violated by that collision, and mostly it's because of the weights of the tractor trailer.
Is there a different stopping time calculation for tractor trailers who have empty loads or no load on the back?
Well, empty load or no load, if they have no load and they're a traditional tractor trailer, there's a certain associated, if it's just a tractor that has no trailer to associated with it, that tractor is going to have an associated braking percentage. When it has a tractor and a trailer, it's going to have an associated braking percentage. So it really depends on the scenario.
I want to thank everybody for joining us this afternoon. I hope that you found the information valuable. I have contact information up on the screen. We'd be more than happy to put you in touch with Frank. Thank you so much.